As many of you may know by now, the future of the advanced placement exam in Italian has been called into question by the College Board after being in existence for only 2.5 years. Given this current situation of the future of the advanced placement exam in Italian, an ad hoc committee of Italian-American educators, community leaders, and officials of the Italian government met to establish various short-term strategies that can turn the tide on the potential elimination of the AP exam. Led by former First Lady of the State of New York, Mrs. Matilde Cuomo, the committee examined a range of issues that included the following. First, strategies for raising the money requested by the College Board. Second, strategies for greater diffusion of information about the advanced placement course and exam among the Italian-American public. Third, the possible creation of an AP course online. And fourth, future roles and responsibilities of the various Italian and Italian-American organizations in waging this battle. The group came away from its 4-hour meeting with a sense of direction for the immediate future and cognizant of how to proceed in the next few months. Among many disadvantages a cancellation of the AP represents, concerns those high school students who have opted for Italian over the so-called canonical languages. Those languages, we've been told, that supposedly have more currency within the greater United States collective consciousness. As we moved forward, we also enlisted the assistance of the Columbus Citizens Foundation and its president, Louis Tallarini. Mr. Tallarini added another component to the question at hand, the business side of it all. Indeed, through his keen business acumen, we have already taken greater strides in reaching our goal of saving the advanced placement exam in Italian. To that end, we wanted to take stock in where we now find ourselves. And before I continue with our guest today, I should tell you that by the time this program airs, we may have indeed further developments to pass along to you. Now to our guests. We are delighted to have with us today two people who are basic to the future of the advanced placement exam in Italian. Honorable Francesco Talo is the Consul General of Italy here in New York. Minister Talo assumed his current position in August 2007 and has been a great supporter of all things Italian and Italian-American in these past 8 months that he has been with us. And we all look forward to continuing our work with him throughout his mandate. Our second guest is Joseph Sciame, Vice President for Community Relations at St. John's University, President and Chair of the Italian Heritage and Culture Committee of New York, and the National Past President of the Order Sons of Italy in America. He, too, along with Mrs. Cuomo, was involved in the initial plans to establish the AP in Italian. Now, why don't we start our conversation with a bit of a history of the advanced placement exam in Italian. The commission was put together, as I understand it, back in the late 90s, perhaps, or around 2000.
That's
Mrs. Matilde Cuomo, the former First Lady of the State of New York, was the lead person of that commission, along with her daughter, and Dr. Margaret Cuomo, and also members from the National Italian-American Foundation, which in our conversation we'll probably refer to as NIAF, and the Order Sons of Italy, which we'll refer to as OSAIA, and also UNICO. And at that point, you were also involved in the development of the AP, I understand.
That is correct. During the period of 2001 to 2003, I was the national first vice president of the Sons of Italy, and we were gearing up to press very hard for advanced placement, the activation of it, because as most of us know, this journey has been going on for more than a quarter of a century. I know of several professors who are long retired now who wanted this way back in the 80s, if not before that. Then in 2003, I became the national president of the Sons of Italy, and the three organizations you mentioned partnered, of course, with the Italian government to come up with the initial funds needed so that this particular examination could be developed and then activated in the education community at the high school level.
Let's first of all talk about the benefits of the exam, the advantages of having an advanced placement exam. And Minister Talo, why don't you speak to that first? Why is it important for us to have an advanced placement exam?
It's important, first of all, because the Italian language is important. Mm-hmm. It's important for us in Italy, as this is the most important tool in order to really promote the Italian culture and update the image of Italy at large. And it's important somehow for the same reasons for our counterparts, for our friends in America, for the American public at large, the Italian-American community especially. Well, the Italian language is certainly the way to really have a deep understanding of how is Italy today, and so to overpass stereotypes and really appreciate the richest culture of the world, not only in its classical aspects, but also for what it can provide today and in the future. And then the AP is, in this framework, it's a key factor, being somehow in between the school educational system and the university, college and university structures. And as there has been AP programs since years, decades, for several other languages, namely French, German, and Spanish, we felt that it was the moment to have also the Italian AP program, and so we worked very well together with Italian-American organizations, and we had a very important success. At that time I was in Rome, I was working in the Prime Minister's office, so I can remember that at the end of this process, the Prime Minister was Berlusconi at that time again, and he wanted to be involved in this. He came in New York, say, to ratify this big change. But certainly, to obtain something, it's not enough. Then you have to nurture it. You have to work on it. It's just the beginning to obtain such an important results. And so now we are working in order to develop and to ensure that the AP program will be more and more successful. And I'm sure that will be successful.
There are some practical issues, too, about the AP exam, as far as high school students going to college. Would you like to speak to those?
Well, I think the practical issue is that by taking advanced placement at the high school level, once a student applies for a particular college or university and goes and takes Italian as the college language, they will be able to be accelerated. So instead of having to repeat that which they learned in high school, they go on to a separate level, more accelerated level. This saves the student time and money, whereas then the student can take other courses which would benefit him or her. I think the real crux of the issue is getting the word out as soon as possible. In many communities throughout the tri-state area, wherever elementary schools have started to have programs at the elementary school level, there is tremendous interest to study Italian. And then that goes on to the junior high school level. When the junior high school students know about it, then they appeal and they want the language taught at the high school level. So we know there is a need. Just recently, I served on a scholarship committee this past weekend, and out of the 8 applicants for scholarships in a local community, 6 of them all took the Italian language. And one could say they all came from the same high school. They did not. They came from 6 different high schools in the county of Nassau.
And they took numerous years of Italian, not just 1 or 2 years.
They've been taking it since junior high school.
Yeah, and that's a little bit rare, unfortunately, and in the Italian language teaching community in the public school system. And I think that's probably a long-term goal of everyone, and especially the AATI, the American Association of Teachers of Italian, has to work on that together with the other Italian and Italian organizations. The Italian government was extremely helpful at the beginning in securing the majority of the funds for the development of the AP exam. And the Italian government has also at least 2 programs that I know of, Italian language programs. One is IACE, the Italian Commission, the Italian American Commission on Education, which is here in New York. And the other is, that I knew of when I was in the Midwest, Italidea. Chicago, exactly.
There are others also.
Then there are others, right. Yeah. How can those be helpful? Let me ask you that question. And how might they be helpful?
Yeah, certainly they can. The idea is that you cannot separate the different levels of education. So you have really to start from the beginning, actually at the pre-K level, and then all the elementary courses, and that's where IACE in the New York area is very active, and it is supported by the Italian government, this committee. They work together with the school authorities in order to enhance the study of the Italian language at the elementary level, especially at the elementary level, but not only. And then the idea is to have a continuity, of course. So after the elementary, to go on with the high school, and then there is this key element of the AP, and we continue with the college and university level. And so in order, I think that the information aspect is really the key aspect, because if we don't broaden the information, if they don't spread the information, it's somehow useless to have nice programs like this one. And that's why I'm very happy to have this opportunity today. And I would like to provide you with an interesting and positive piece of information. I recently learned, maybe many of you already know, that Italy is the first country of destination after Britain for university students, American university students abroad. So this means that when American university students want to study abroad, want to have experiences abroad, after an English language country like Britain, as first foreign language destination, they choose Italy, more than France, Germany, Spain. So more than countries which are home of languages which are often more studied. So I think this is very significant, and it means that the American students understand the importance of the Italian culture. We have to offer them the tools to better utilize their period of study in Italy.
There's another figure you have mentioned in the past, something like 60% of the art in the world today. Is it the world or the Western world?
In the world.
In the world is Italian.
Yeah. I don't know how they can make these statistics. Right. They are really difficult, but of course we like them, right. and and we like to repeat because they are so meaningful, impressive, to have somehow 2/3 of all the world art heritage existing in Italy. Right. Again, this is another very good motivation to study Italian. And of course, we can also remember that Italian is the language of music. Whoever wants to study classical music has to pass through some Italian language terminology or studies.
And 20th century, as far as cinema is concerned, when it deals with basically from the 1940s through the 80s, 90s, and even now with the new Italian cinema with Fellini, Antonioni, Pasolini, etc., was really sort of world cinema in the Western. It was the beginning of, or at the forefront of Western cinema for sure. One of the sort of anecdotes I like to tell is the fact that one of the major museums in Western Europe, actually one of the major museums in the Western world, the Louvre, the icon for the Louvre is, of course, the Mona Lisa, which is an Italian piece of art par excellence. Let's get back to the AP, and you both mentioned the idea of diffusing, getting the information out. There's also a sort of myth that we need to dispel about the AP, and that is you have to take the advanced placement course in order to take the exam, and instead this isn't true. Students can, in fact, students whose knowledge is good enough, or they feel their knowledge is good enough of Italian to pass the exam, can in fact take the exam even though they haven't taken the course.
They can.
Yeah.
You can take the advanced placement tests without having been through the coursework.
And they basically need to go to the College Board website and follow the directions to get to.
And I think the Consul General has spoken to this point with regard to the La Scuola d'Italia here in New York.
For the first year, La Scuola d'Italia will offer AP exams. Actually, students of the Scuola d'Italia are going to, or they already had
Right, in
They-
this period, the
yes.
exam is taking place exactly.
They already passed their exams, and so it was a very good opportunity for them. They were not informed, they were not informed. So then it was quite easy for us, for our office, to somehow to twin these students with another school which was already offering the program and the exams. And it's really a simple procedure. So this is something that is important, that all the potential interested students know. They can profit of their ability to speak Italian and ask us or the College Board, of course, and they will find certainly a school not far from their place of residence and have this good opportunity.
What are some of the other ways we need to get the word out? You both mentioned we need to get the word out. Of course, I think the various consulates in the United States can help in that. I think NIAF, OSAIA, UNICO, the AATI, the American Association of Teachers of Italian. We basically need to engage in a letter writing campaign to make sure everyone knows what's going on.
We need to do letter writing. We also need to get the message out in our various publications at the organizational level, whether it be NIAF, UNICO, Sons of Italy. We each have quarterly magazines, bi-monthly magazines. We have electronic methodologies today where one can communicate with large audiences of people, and we need to speak about it in a very positive way so that no one feels that it's endangered in its longevity and being given as an examination. And as with all things in life, it may seem like a slow road, but once it picks up momentum, once the word gets out there, you're going to see more and more students wanting to take that examination. I'm doing it from recollection, but I think the first year was close to 1,600 students taking it.
It was, in fact, 1,000. I have the figures here, 1,597, from what I understand, in 2006.
And I think that will go up.
And it did go up. It went up minimally, but it went up to 1,642. And then this year, we know that, we don't have the figures yet of how many people took the exam, but we know that well over 2,000 were ordered. And usually the College Board estimates that around 85 to 90% of the exams ordered is the number of students who eventually end up taking the exam, which means we probably had at least 1,800, and we'll have those figures, I guess, within the next few days or something to that.
And that seems to be a solid number for an examination that will pick up momentum. We have to allow time for it, time to get out to almost like a generation of students. I always sit back and feel, as someone who didn't have the availability of Italian when I went to high school, that had we been doing it that back then, or even back at the time in the 20s and the 40s and the 60s, but I think Italian has never been available. Now it is far more available. And I think it's part of this seamless garment almost that the Consul General referred to, where one has to commence the study of a language with culture from the elementary school level, pre-K, elementary, junior high, high school, and then you'll see more and more people wanting to take it. In terms of collegiate enrollment, study abroad programs, Italy is the most popular non-English speaking language.
The increase in the study of Italian at the college level has been dramatic. I mean, it's been in the double digits in the last 10 years, so it's been dramatic.
Yeah, and it's important to update the image of Italy, to have a crucial tool also to take profit of the so strong relations we have between our two countries in the economic as well as in the political field. So one have to remember the importance of Italy as one of the strongest Western European economies, with very big ties with America, as well as the political links we have between our two countries. So it's really a gift that one can make to the young generations, to the children, to the opportunity to study Italian, especially in a globalized world where, of course, it's more and more necessary to have a good knowledge of a second or a third language. And then why not Italian?
Not just Italian Americans take Italian.
Correct.
There are many students who are not of Italian heritage who take Italian, and that's a wonderful fact, right? what can we do on a grassroots level? In other words, parents, et cetera. What do we have to do at a community level, do you think?
I think we have to speak more about the availability of the Italian language. I do know that within the Order of Sons of Italy in America, we've had committees going down the line alphabetically through every high school in the state and did studies. I know when I was state president back in 93, 97, we conducted that study so that we would have the ammunition in hand to find out where Italian was being taught, where it could be taught, and then actually strategically going into a community where, let's say, they'd have 5 high schools and go to meet with the principal, and then eventually with the superintendent. And remember, you're fighting sometimes the PTA board, the school board rather, right. I should say, and you have to make your case. That would mean that our people need to become more involved. Italian Americans, in my own personal opinion, need to be more involved at the school board level, so that when the question of finances come up, that they can speak for their piece of the pie. So that's really at the grassroots level. Then once you sign up the students who say they want to take the Italian language, you've got to make sure that they actually register for the classes once they are offered. Otherwise, the superintendent's going to come back saying, see, we told you nobody is interested. Yeah. But we know there is interest. Right up to the collegiate level, the enrollments in Italian is very high, which means that if they've been studying it from grammar school, they're going to go into it at the collegiate level and then go into the teaching profession, which would almost be my question for you, because I know of your involvement with AATI. How do you feel? Do we have enough teachers of Italian?
Well, we actually do not. From what I'm hearing, and even in the greater New York metropolitan, tri-state area, as we call it now, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And supposedly, from what I've been hearing, there is, in fact, a shortage of Italian language teachers in New Jersey. They're looking. Part of the issue is, of course, certification. And each state has its own rules and regulations, requirements for certification. And so what we need to make sure is that what we need to try to do is have these states engage in some sort of reciprocity, so that if you're certified in Connecticut, you can also teach in New Jersey and in New York and vice versa. I was a high school teacher a few decades ago, and when I was certified, I vaguely have this recollection that I was also certified in New York, that this Connecticut certification, this is back in the early 70s, was in fact recognized by New York and vice versa, I think. So, but the other issue is this, and this is one of the questions that comes up that I've heard for the last 3 decades teaching at the university level. Why should I major in Italian? And of course, my question is, well, why should you major in English? And why should you major in history? And why should you major in? To look at the practical issue only is perhaps a little bit short-sighted, because really if someone majors in Italian, they study language and literature, and maybe film. If someone majors in English, they study literature, English, American literature, and maybe a little bit of film too. They do the same thing, they just do it in different language. And then if they want to go on to law school, if they want to go on to whatever, they can still do that. And so that's sort of, my feeling is that one should study, one has to look at both sides, the sort of practical issue, but also the passionate issue. And that is, if one really wants to study Italian language and culture, they should do that. And of course, I think teaching is coming back to be a noble profession. I think that teaching may have gone through hard times in the 70s and 80s and perhaps a little bit of the 90s, but I think public school teaching is coming back and as a noble profession. It's always been a noble profession for me, but I think there was a moment where people felt it wasn't worth the struggle, whatever that meant to people. So we're coming to the end of our conversation here, and I wanted to give each of you perhaps the opportunity to make a closing statement of sorts, or to make an opening statement for the future, and that we can then build on again. Why don't we start first with Mr. Sciame?
Well, I tend to be positive in most of the things I do in my life, and I feel that owing to the collaboration, especially here in New York, with the Office of the Consul General, it's been tremendous. He's taken the leadership. He's brought us together as a community. Obviously, we have the historical presence of Matilda Cuomo, who has been there also at the helm. We have the cooperation of folks like you and the presidents of other major national organizations and other constituencies. So I'm very hopeful that by coming to the table and talking about it, continuing, it's activated, it's working. It's just that we've got to be just a little bit more patient and work a little bit harder at the PR.
There are good reasons to choose the AP program. Also on the practical point of view, you mentioned teaching. And the fact that there are not enough teachers, Italian teachers, it's also a good reason to do it, because there is a demand and we need to have more supply. And so this is certainly a good choice. And in the meanwhile, certainly we have to work really at all possible levels, because I also feel that there are pockets of supply, of availability of teachers, which probably are not 100% utilized. And here is the importance of what you say, Professor Sciame, the involvement at every possible level, so also the involvement of the families in the PTA groups. So one has to speak loud and to ask what you need. You don't have, it's not enough to say that things are not going well. You have to be protagonist of your destiny. Then I think it's going to be a very nice future, because there are all the best indications, and already this year, the figures we have for this year show a good increase in percentage terms. Certainly next year will be better, even better. And the trend, therefore, is very positive. So let's look with great optimism to the future, knowing that this future needs to have our assistance to be built.
Well, the one thing that this turning, let's call it a turning point in the future of the AP exam, the Advanced Placement Exam in Italian, has done is it's brought together various organizations and communities, I think, to build a foundation to move forward not only with this, but indeed with other activities. So we have of course Mrs. Cuomo, Matilda Raffo Cuomo, and Dr. Margaret Cuomo, who were instrumental early on. The Italian government, of course, came in with their wallet open, and that was wonderful, and other support. Then they continue to give us support from the embassy, from the various consulates, as we said before about Minister Talo and his good work. We have to recognize NIAF, we have to recognize OSAIA, UNICO, IACE, of course, is an organization, our own, because we're on the committee, the Italian Heritage and Culture Month Committee, and of course the AATI, of which I've been a member for many years. So I'm glad that all these organizations were brought together. I think that might be a little bit of a novelty, and I look forward to working with them as long as I'm here, and I look forward to working with the two of you, both in this short-term goal and also with some long-term goals. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
For more information on the Italian AP course or exam, call or write to the Education Office at the Italian Consulate for your jurisdiction. In New York, call 212-439-8661 or education.newyork@esteri.it. That's education.newyork@esteri.it.